Hey, it's time for another edition of the Cseekly Recap. I'm your host Csomm, and I'm here to go a bit deeper into the topics that I've covered in my shorts. The footage behind is from the game Graveyard Keeper. Let's get this show on the road. Our first story today is all about Subnautica 2. And yes, you guessed it, more drama. So apparently, Subnautica 2 is no longer being published by Krafton and will instead be self-published by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. This sudden shift comes amid ongoing studio changes, raising questions about the game's development and release. I reckon this isn't just a random business decision. It's probably tied to a major lawsuit and power struggle. As you are well aware, Krafton bought Unknown Worlds in 2021, and then there was that $250 million bonus tied to Subnautica's 2 success. Stuff happened in between. Krafton fired the original devs, delayed the game, and tried to avoid paying that bonus. However, a court ruled in favor of the devs, reinstated the CEO, and gave them control again. So what it could mean, realistically speaking? Well, it could be like some kind of a soft breakup. Distancing, whatever you want to call it. Most likely is that Krafton still owns the studio, but is stepping back publicly due to legal pressure. It's pretty much like this. We are involved, but don't put our name on it. I read somewhere that they said that they are still supporting the launch, so I guess this kinda makes sense. Another explanation would be that developers are regaining control, either partially or fully, which means that they now control release timing and control publishing decisions. However, some might say that this could signal a real split or independence move. I reckon we are going to figure out that in the future. Also, this could be a legal move. I mean, if you think about it, changing the publisher might protect the dev's bonus eligibility, comply with court orders, or avoid further legal violation. And naturally, you have a worst-case scenario, which basically means more delays and messy launch, marketing confusion, and possible behind-the-scenes instability. However, I need to say that game is still planned for early access in 2026. What my gut feeling is telling me is this basically does not mean everything is suddenly fine. I would say quite the opposite. The conflict is still brewing between publisher and developer. The developer just won a major legal battle, and control of the game is shifting. So most likely interpretation would be that Unknown Worlds is taking back control while Krafton is being pushed into the background, at least publicly. And that makes complete sense because, again, their public image is really messed up and people don't want to see that name ever again attached to Subnautica 2. So you could say this is a win for Unknown Worlds, but I believe there will be more drama related to Subnautica 2 Krafton Unknown Worlds situation, so I'm pretty damn curious what's going to happen in the future. Speaking of what's going to happen in the future, the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, reportedly titled Resynced, may include new characters and story content. While fans are excited, changes to such a beloved game could be risky, and we almost witnessed that, but Ubisoft decided to delay the official reveal at the last minute. Like I said, it was supposed to be revealed at April 16th, but Ubisoft decided to postpone the announcement until the next week. They did, however, show a roughly 30-minute presentation to certain media and content creators, but like I said in my short, I will be the judge of whether or not this new Resynced thing is a good or a bad idea. And to conclude the story chain, so to speak, new leaks suggest Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced will not be an RPG, focusing instead on a classic character-driven experience. And if this is true, Ubisoft may be stepping away from the RPG formula they used in recent Assassin's Creed games. So obviously there is a lot of things happening with Assassin's Creed Remake, so let's unpack it. The first big thing what they're doing is they're adding new storylines. I already said in my previous recaps that they need to do something in order to justify why should I play this game, because if everything is going to be the same like it was in the original one, then what's the point of playing it? other than seeing things in a better graphical fidelity, which, to be honest, I enjoyed the first one completely fine as is, so what the hell is the point? I can just go back and replay the original one, giving them $0 because I already have the damn thing, so again, what's the point? This kinda reminds me of a Oblivion remaster situation. The brain of the game is still the original, because the devs literally described it like that. So we are talking same quests, same world, same factions, same core systems. But the game got optimized in terms of graphical fidelity, combat and gameplay, leveling and progression, NPCs, dialogue and AI. In other words, it plays a bit better, but it's still the same. A bit different, but still the same. So, connecting this situation to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, the new one, the only thing that they could do is basically add story and characters. Now the question is, how will that be incorporated in the storyline that we already know? Will Ubisoft use this in order to push more on their bullshit through story and characters? Or they will be smart, use common sense, and incorporate stories that could have been said back in the day, but because ABCD reasons they couldn't. But now they kind of be like, okay, we can do this, we can do that, we can introduce this character, this pirate, that kind of stuff. And that could work, essentially, but it all depends what percentage of the story is going to be added based on what we already know. Because if I'm going to pay $40 or $50 or whatever the fuck the price will be, in order to experience 5% of the story, which essentially adds nothing to the original one, then again, what's the point of this remake other than fixing bugs, increasing graphical fidelity, and maybe doing some changes to combat? Maybe. I don't know what to say about this current situation. I really need to see it, but it reminds me of Oblivion. Yes, I played the remake, and yes, it was nice, but at the end of the day, I got bored because I already seen all of these things before, but packaged differently. And that's the whole point here. And also, if anyone thought that they're going to introduce RPG elements like we've seen in Valhalla, Origins, Odyssey, games like that, either you are so into these systems that you don't see further from your nose, or people really think Ubisoft is that fucking dumb that they're going to change the core of the game itself. And thank fuck this is not going to happen, and to be honest, it would be an extremely dumb move, because whoever played Black Flag knows that these systems do not belong in that game because it was all about characters, story, and the feeling of being a pirate. And then someone will point out that yes, you had these RPG elements that you couldn't go to this area or that area. But these limitations feel natural and they're not as egregious as we have in the newer games where you are continuously swapping your gear and changing stuff just to be competitive enough in order to access certain areas. At the end of the day, I think this is a blatant cash-in on nostalgia, and it has been done before. But for me personally, considering I played Black Flag around maybe 10 plus times or so, and however big the story and character changes are going to be in this remake, I don't think they will grip me that much, or at least I hope they won't. But never say never. I will definitely go and try it, see what happens, provided Ubisoft doesn't put a ridiculous price on it, and then give my opinion about the whole situation with the Black Flag remake. Because, again, I need to see it and experience it in order to see whether if it's a good or a bad thing, because I don't really trust anyone anymore in terms of reviews and stuff like that. Crimson Desert is one blatant example how that turned out to be, because most of the people were saying that the game was amazing, and then when I tried it, it was like, okay, I see that was a fucking lie. So yeah, when the game comes out, I'll probably pick it up and give my opinion, because that's what I do. And our final story today is all about Stop Killing Games initiative. So the Stop Killing Games movement received overwhelming support during a European Parliament hearing. The initiative aims to prevent games from becoming unplayable after servers shut down, and this could have massive implications for the future of gaming. You know what's funny? When I read that every politician in the room reacted positively, I thought that was some kind of a fucking joke, because that's fucking rare. In EU politics, you usually get a mixed reaction, a pushback, or outright opposition. But in this situation, they almost universally agree that the issue is real. So what could actually change in this particular situation? Well, if this goes further, I reckon it could lead to a new EU laws forcing companies to either keep games playable after shutdown, provide offline patches or server alternatives, or refund players if they cannot secure the things that I already mentioned. But let's be real, providing server alternatives or refunding is never going to happen. So I reckon the best next thing would be to keep games playable after shutdown by providing offline patches. However, people need to realize that this is a hearing, early step, not a final decision. There are several steps before this gets into legislation. For starters, EU needs to review everything, and then European Commission needs to respond. I think deadline is July 2026, and then they may propose a law, modify existing rules, or basically do nothing. And let's not forget, the other side is also working tirelessly. They're not idle in this situation. But the most important thing is that people are talking about this, and it touches a fundamental question. Do you actually own digital products or just rent them? Because right now we are just renting them. You buy a game and company can kill it anytime with no guarantees it will remain usable. But if this thing passes, it could reshape digital ownership. Not just with games, but software, services, maybe even subscriptions. The question now is how realistic this outcome is. And I would say not really realistic, because again, the other side has to say something about that, or use lobbying or whichever tactic in order for this not to be a thing. Maybe they will argue something along the lines like, okay, we will give 2 to 3 years for this game to fully function, and then later on, that's it. You are dead in the water. Let's imagine that the game is a washing machine and you have 2 years warranty, and after that the manufacturer just says, okay, that's it, it's broken, but we don't really care because you are outside of your warranty period. But the thing is, you can still fix the damn washing machine because you can find parts somewhere else and increase the longevity of the product. And with games, you cannot do that because once servers go offline, that's about it. You are basically fucked. Try playing Anthem right now when you purchase the game whenever the fucking thing came out. You cannot because it's not working anymore and there are no means for you to reinstate the product in the working condition. At the end of the day, I would say the real battle is still ahead because the movement just entered serious political territory. The good thing about this is that the politicians are surprisingly supportive, maybe because they don't know shit about gaming and the gaming industry never really considered that they need to lobby against this particular situation, so I reckon they got a bit blindsided. And of course, politicians might not be that knowledgeable about the whole situation, so probably they found the next best analog in order to explain to themselves how is this working. But let's not forget how amazing Ross Scott is in explaining this shit, so I reckon if not for him, this wouldn't go to the lengths that we are witnessing right now. So shout out to Ross Scott, and well done, my man, well done. My take on this is really simple. The game is a product. I bought the product, I should own the fucking product, and it should be functional unless something weird happens to it. And not to mention, when I own it, I can do whatever the fuck I want with it, and that means giving it to my friend so he can play it and vice versa. So yeah, think of it as a car that you can use, you can maintain, it works, and it's completely okay for someone to take it for a spin and give it back when they are done. So to conclude, I wish them all the best because they are fighting for all of us, so to speak. And hopefully we will get a positive outcome from this whole situation. Because it is high time things should change. And that's basically it when it comes to the news that I have covered this week. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, I encourage you to leave comments. I read all of them and I'm very happy to interact there with you guys. And if you enjoy this content, consider liking it and subscribing for more discussions like this. And that's it from me. Until the next one.